from the separation of your Guru Maharaj. And you may be feeling that, you are most probably feeling that you regret that you didn't get enough association with your Guru Maharaj. You didn't get to serve him as much as you would have liked to. You didn't get to be with him as much as you would have wanted to. And you feel that he's gone, that you've lost your chance. So I can tell you from my own experience that I had, for 2 years, I just had 2 years of association with Srila Prabhupada. But actually, I didn't really have a close association with Srila Prabhupada. Because I joined ISKCON in 1975. And by that time, ISKCON was quite big. It wasn't a small family like in the beginning in America. It had become a big family by then. And Prabhupada, he was always surrounded by sannyasis, or these big men holding their dandas all around him. And it was his presence in that sense, it was very kind of awe-inspiring. And I was just a young girl, 22 years old, like a new Bhakti. I didn't know much. And Prabhupada was such an awe-inspiring figure. He was so effulgent, so spiritually powerful personality, so advanced in Krishna consciousness, and then surrounded by all these followers, all these ISKCON leaders. They were always next to him, because his strategy was really to train the leaders, because he couldn't really train each one of us personally, because there were thousands of us. So he was training the leaders so that the leaders could then train everyone else. So devotees like me, we didn't really get to be with Prabhupada like one-to-one, having one-to-one interaction or personal service like that, especially being in a female body. And I was not that kind of person to push myself forward. I was a bit shy, so really I didn't stand a chance to get. I could say that the only one-to-one interaction I had with Srila Prabhupada was when he gave me initiation. Of course, that was the most important one. That was the most important conversation. He asked me to take my vows, and then he gave me my name, and he gave me my beads, and I offered my obeisance to him. And that was the only one-to-one interaction I had with Prabhupada. And that was life-changing. But other than that, I was fortunate that I got to attend many classes and darshans of Prabhupada. But the one-to-one interaction, I didn't really have that. So if you have had one-to-one interaction with your Guru Maharaj, and if you have been able to, been given the opportunity to render personal service to him, you should consider yourselves fortunate. Because Bhakti Charu Swami, he also has many, many disciples, and it must have been difficult for him to give full attention to everyone, physically. Because in the physical presence of the spiritual master, there are these restrictions, physical restrictions. But I could say from my own experience that that my relationship with Srila Prabhupada, it's spiritual, and when the spiritual master disappears, that relationship, it becomes totally spiritual. And then when the relationship is spiritual, you actually have unlimited access. You don't have to wait for the spiritual master to physically come to your location, but you have unlimited access spiritually. So that is that's a really wonderful thing. And of course, it takes time to really understand and realize and practice that, but that will certainly come. I mean, going back to the time that Prabhupada was present with us physically, I did get a lot of nectar. I must say that attending his darshans in Vrindavan, in Mayapur, and in England, it was very, very special. Just being in the association of a pure devotee and drinking the nectar of his words and his association. It was very, very purifying, uplifting, and it gives a peace to the heart. And I certainly felt protected by Prabhupada. I felt his shelter, even though we didn't have that verbal exchange on a personal level, but I felt his shelter. And of course that shelter to make the switch from the shelter that you feel when the spiritual master is present to the ongoing spiritual shelter, it's a transition period. I mean, I was fortunate to be present when Prabhupada paid his last visit to London and to Bhaktivedanta Manor. And that was very, very special. I was there when Prabhupada had his last darshan with Radha Landanishwara. And I actually got to see the tears streaming down his face on that occasion. Normally Prabhupada was not quick to show, to show his ecstatic symptoms. He always controlled his ecstatic symptoms. It was very rare for him to actually lose control of his ecstatic symptoms. But at that stage, Prabhupada was very sick. He didn't have very long to live. And so he had dropped his guard, and he showed his, you could say in one sense, his true identity as his love for Krishna was, he couldn't hide it anymore at that point. And I also, by some special mercy, I got to be there at the end in Vrindavan when Prabhupada left this world. I was present for that, and that was very, very devastating. It is difficult to describe, but for all of you disciples of Bhakti Charu Swami who have recently lost the earthly association of your Guru Maharaj, you can understand also that feeling. And for others who haven't been through that, it's hard to imagine. But for us, when Prabhupada left, it was, we were not ready for that. We were just not ready at all. Even though he was elderly, not like Bhakti Charu Swami. Prabhupada was elderly and he was very sick for almost a whole year. He was not in good health, and his time was limited. I mean, anyone in a reasonable, rational frame of mind would understand that he didn't have long to live. But we were not in a reasonable, rational frame of mind. We were just so attached to Prabhupada that we couldn't imagine living without him. We couldn't imagine a world without Prabhupada. He was the center of our world. And at that time, there was only one guru. Prabhupada was the only guru. There was no one else. And everyone else was so young. All the disciples were so young. And we couldn't imagine how any of our godbrothers could become gurus. It was something we were not prepared for, because we were all so dependent on Srila Prabhupada to guide us. He taught us everything that we knew in Krishna consciousness. We learnt it from Prabhupada. Everything that we knew about practicing spiritual life, we learnt it from Srila Prabhupada. He had changed our lives, especially for those of us from the West, that we had no inkling about spiritual life before we came in contact with ISKCON and with devotees. So it was a complete life change for us, and Prabhupada was the center of our world. So when he actually did leave, it was very hard for that to sink in. And first of all, it didn't sink in. And then when it finally did sink in, it was like, you know, the whole world had gone dark. It was like the lights had been switched out, and we just felt lost, like orphans, and we didn't know which way to turn, left or right. But eventually, life went on, ISKCON went on. The leaders stepped up, and new gurus were appointed. And that's why ISKCON is still here today. So Bhakti Charu Swami, he was also there at that time in Vrindavan. And so I have known him since that time, although not really personally, only from distance, until I got to know him well, my husband actually got to know him when he first came to England. And that was in the 80s, sometime in the 1980s. And it was at that time that after the guru at the time had left, and he and Bhakti Charu Swami came on behalf of the GBC to help out for devotees who had lost the guru. And so at that time, my husband actually became his personal servant and was doing a lot of service for Bhakti Charu Swami. And so they got to know each other. And then later, Maharaj came to our house a couple of times. He came to our house for prasadam, and we made pizza for him. He liked a pizza. And I remember he also used to invite us in Mayapur. He would invite all the senior devotees for prasadam in his rooms in Mayapur. And he would very lovingly make sure that we all got served with most exquisite prasadam. And I remember him as always being a perfect gentleman. Bhakti Charu Swami was very dear to Prabhupada, as you know. He was like kind of like a pet son of Prabhupada. Because he came late, 77, but in a very short time he became very close to Prabhupada. He got initiated, and then he got the sannyas initiation, and everything very quickly. And then he was translating Prabhupada's books in Bengali. So he was serving very closely to Srila Prabhupada. And he became fit to represent Srila Prabhupada. I would say that he was a really perfect representative of Srila Prabhupada. I found him to be always very kind, gentle, very humble, and a very sweet person, always very sweet and kind in his dealings. And actually, my husband was tempted to take initiation from Bhakti Charu Maharaj. But the reason he didn't is because he felt that Maharaj is so sweet and so soft that he felt he needed someone more heavy to discipline him. So he took initiation from Tamal Krishna Goswami. But he always had a very sweet relationship with Bhakti Charu Swami. And when Tamal Krishna Goswami left this world in 2002, which was a very, very sudden tragedy, my husband was present there in Mayapur. It happened in Mayapur. And he was asked to perform the last rites together with one of his godbrothers. And which meant bathing and dressing the body, placing the body in the samadhi, applying the salt, and all these different rituals which are performed when a guru or sannyasi departs. So it was very difficult to perform all these last rites. And he told me that when he came out of the samadhi pit, he then at that point he burst into tears, and Bhakti Charu Maharaj was there, and he embraced my husband. He actually put my husband's head on his chest and embraced him. And so we've always had a shelter of Bhakti Charu Swami. My Guru Maharaj is no longer present with us physically, and my husband's Guru Maharaj is no longer present with us. So we've taken shelter of other Vaishnavas. Those ones, gurus, just a few of them who we have a special close relationship with. And Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj was one of those. And so it's really actually affected us when the news came of his departure. More than we had expected it to, it really affected us a lot also. So, but the way it has affected all of you, only each of you know. But we feel for you, and we've been there. And but remember that the Guru, he hasn't left you. Physically, he may have disappeared, but spiritually, he hasn't disappeared, and he will never leave you. He'll always be with you, and the relationship will go on to a higher level. I have to say that Although I regretted at one time that I never got to do personal close service for Prabhupada when he was physically present. But he has assured me that he knows me and that we have that relationship. So through some special experiences, the spiritual master, sometimes he may enter your dreams, as Prabhupada has entered my dreams from time to time, and given me that reassurance that that relationship is eternal. The spiritual master is the eternal spiritual father, and his shelter is always there for the disciple. He is always caring for us. Whether he is physically present or not, he is always caring for his disciples. That relationship never ends. He is always looking after you, and he's always encouraging you in your Krishna consciousness to carry on with your service. The way that Bhakti Charu Swami, the circumstances under which he left, are actually a testimony of his dedication to Prabhupada's mission. I believe that he knew Prabhupada's heart, that he knew that the Western mission was Prabhupada's heart. Paschatya Deshatarina, that was Prabhupada's mission. Prabhupada, he actually gave priority to the Western mission because he knew that if the Western countries, they take to Krishna consciousness, then the whole world will follow. So he was very much concerned to spread Krishna consciousness in the West, as instructed to him by his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And your Guru Maharaj was also very, very concerned about the Western mission. And so he actually risked his life, and he sacrificed his life to support the preaching in the West. He didn't want to just sit down in Ujjain, and he just wanted to be a part of the Sankirtan mission. And I mean, he was a hero. He was so courageous that he actually sacrificed his life to teach us the importance of preaching, how Prabhupada wanted us to preach, and especially to try to convince Western people about Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada wanted us to rack our brains to find ways to spread Krishna consciousness to Western people, because it's not so easy. But he didn't want us to give up, but to find ways to give them Krishna consciousness in ways that they can actually relate to and that they can actually take into their lives. So, and I think it was a wonderful service when your Guru Maharaj, he brought together the Krishna West program with the rest of the GBC at the GBC meeting in Ujjain. How he was a peacemaker, how he brought the leaders together, because there was some difference of opinion between the Krishna West project of Hridayananda Goswami and some of the other GBCs. And he brought them together to have a dialogue, to come to an understanding and to accept that as part of Prabhupada's preaching mission. So Krishna consciousness has to spread all over the world. And it's much easier to spread in India than it is in the West. But we have to, wherever we are, whatever, we have to support these projects. We have to support each other's projects and work together without any racial barriers to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world in the way that Prabhupada wanted and in the way that Bhakti Charu Swami wanted, because what he wanted is the same as what Prabhupada wanted. So in my eyes, he's a hero and so very inspiring. And so please just carry on with his mission. Try to follow in his footsteps. And I'm sure he has given you many instructions to follow. And by following his instructions, you will be with him. He will be in your heart, and you will be in his heart. So I think I'll stop there if that's okay. And if there are any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna Majid, thank you very much for your wonderful session. There is one question. How do we study and form in Krishna consciousness if there is a lack of taste and realization? After all, we all expect result with our endeavors.
How to be steady and firm in Krishna consciousness if there is a lack of taste and realization. After all, we all expect results with our endeavors. Yes, so there are two things. One is the endeavor with enthusiasm, and the other one is the patience. We have to have a patience also. And so these qualities are both mentioned by Srila Rupa Goswami. And we have to keep a firm faith in the process. So by executing the processes with faith, then everything will come in time. We have to have faith that those results will come in the form of taste and realization. Because if we think about it, after all, we've been in this world for millions of lifetimes. So just one lifetime is not that much time. What to speak of just a few years? It's not much time. In the universal picture. So it takes time, and we have to be patient and keep a firm faith and just continue practicing and try to avoid offenses, because if we make offenses, then that the offenses against the holy name, offenses against devotees, this will slow it down. So try to avoid offenses and just continue, and everything will come. Okay.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you very much. There is another question. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dandavat Pranam. Can you please share some moments with Srila Prabhupada that kept you inspired and continue to serve Srila Prabhupada? Please share some most memorable interactions with Srila Prabhupada.
Well, as I said before, in terms of personal interactions, the only one was my initiation. So, but I didn't need those personal interactions with Prabhupada to be inspired. I didn't feel any lacking because I was inspired just by being in his presence. I was inspired by Prabhupada's presence, his bhakti, his spiritual strength, his compassion, his dedication to the mission of his guru. So many qualities, all the qualities of a pure devotee were there to inspire us. The classes that he gave us, the books that he wrote, staying up every night for hours writing books, spending all day long preaching and giving his love and care to his disciples. So everything was there to inspire us. There was nothing lacking. And even similarly with your Guru Maharaj also, there is, as Prabhupada's son, he also demonstrated all these beautiful qualities of a pure devotee to inspire all of you. So there is nothing lacking there. Is that okay?
Thank you, Mataji. There is another question. This is the follow-up question for the first, where he was asking for the endeavor, how to become steady and firm in Krishna consciousness. He is asking the follow-up question. Mataji, could you please share some of your realizations, if you would like to, since you are a senior devotee, to motivate and inspire us? I think you have covered that. Okay, so there is another question. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for very wonderful inspiration you gave to all of us. You mentioned that now after physical disappearance, a disciple get unlimited access, spirituality with spiritual master. He get unlimited spiritual access with the spiritual master. How we can understand, realize, and take advantage of this access?
Okay, that's a good question. We have to approach the spiritual master. So every time, just like when we chant, for example, when we chant the Hare Krishna mantra, we learn that Krishna is present. And we understand, we can realize also by experience when we feel some happiness, some bliss when we're chanting. We know that that's because Krishna is present in his name. Krishna, when you say the name Krishna, he is present there in his name. So similarly, when the spiritual master becomes absent physically, he is also present in his name when you pray to him. So when you offer obeisance to your spiritual master, when you say your pranam prayers to him, and when you pray to him, but it has to be with devotion from the heart, not just reciting the prayers like sometimes we do. We just recite the prayers mechanically. But when you are actually reciting from the heart, then the spiritual master, he's present and he's ready to reciprocate with you. So you can pray to him, as often as you like. It can be every day, it can be any time. Sometimes the mind is occupied with other things. Sometimes we forget that the spiritual master is present with us, that Krishna is present with us. We get so absorbed in our day-to-day activities that we forget that Krishna is with us and the spiritual master is with us. But as soon as we turn to him and we pray to him, as soon as we ask him for some help, for some guidance, for some mercy, then he will immediately reciprocate. So, there are those special moments. If you, of course, now in the current situation, no one is traveling much, but in the future, when you go to his samadhi in Mayapur and you bow down, then you will feel very strongly his presence there. But even wherever you are, you can pray to him. If you have a picture, then that's nice. It helps you to visualize him. But wherever you are, even in your mind, you can pray to him, and he will always reciprocate in some way. You may not experience it immediately, you may not realize it immediately, but eventually you will realize, yes, that's because I prayed for that. Now I'm getting the reciprocation. So just like when you pray to Krishna, you pray to Radharani, you pray to Lord Chaitanya, you pray, we have so many personalities to pray to. We have all the acharyas to pray to as well, but especially with your own spiritual master, that you have that special close relationship. He will always reciprocate with your prayers. Okay?
Thank you, Mataji. There is one question. How amazing it is linked since Mahaprabhu appeared in this world and started Harinam all over the world. To keep Mahaprabhu, Radha Krishna, Prabhupada and his disciple in center, will one grow in Krishna consciousness. By keeping Mahaprabhu and Radha Krishna, one will grow in Krishna consciousness. Very much appreciated your contribution to ISKCON. Sometimes I feel that I am not contributing anything. How can I grow deep in Krishna consciousness since since there is a lack of intensive sadhu sangha?
Okay, so yeah, association of devotees is important. And at the moment, in these times, it's challenging that we can't associate together so much physically because of the world crisis of the epidemic. So that's why nowadays we associate more online. But associating online is also associating. So that Sangha is available on so many platforms. We just search for it. And as far as contributing, we can always find ways to contribute as well if we really want to. First of all, by concentrating our own Krishna consciousness, by chanting, following the principles, and trying to be Krishna conscious ourselves through chanting and through reading and through studying and through devotional service. And then there are so many other ways that we can find to contribute through our local temple or our local community. So just according to what you are good at, you can find ways to serve and pray for service, and it will come. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you very much. There is one question. Can you please share some incidents how Krishna reciprocates?
Okay. Well, there are so many, it's difficult to single one out. I mean, I'm sure as devotees we all have experiences of Krishna reciprocating with us. Because personally I find that whatever I ask for my spiritual life, it usually comes. I mean, if we're going to be asking for material things, then that's not really the right way to pray. I mean, we can, if we have material desires, we can pray to Krishna to fulfill our material desires, because we don't want to go to the demigods. And Krishna will also fulfill all of our desires in due course of time, but he regulates how he fulfills them because he always wants what's best for us, to bring us closer to him. So, but I find that that when we pray, that my goodness, I'm just trying to think of an example. It's like nothing really stands out strongly because it's just like it happens so much that personally, when I pray for Krishna to fulfill the gaps, the gaps that I perceive in myself, the things that I perceive that I'm lacking in, I'm always, I usually pray for those, when I perceive those lackings, for Krishna to actually help to fill those up. Like, for example, the spiritual strength, because when we're lacking in physical strength, then we need a spiritual strength. And as we get older and the physical strength becomes less, we need more spiritual strength. So I guess I've been praying more for that lately, and Krishna is giving some spiritual strength to help me overcome my physical handicaps. So that's one example I could say.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. There are two more questions. Can you please share some memorable moments with Zulins Bhakti Charu Swami, as you had the opportunity to serve him when he used to visit for prasadam?
Yes. I don't remember very clearly. I don't remember like an exact exchange in terms of the words, because it's been It was quite a long time ago, but I remember that he was. I just remember that his presence, that he was very, very appreciative, and the way he reciprocated. He was very friendly and kind, and it was just such a joy to be with him. And I also remember one time at Bhaktivedanta Manor when he wanted to take prasadam with all his god brothers and god sisters. And so we went to one room, and I was there together with many god brothers and god sisters, sitting down, waiting for the prasad, and then Maharaj came in, and then I started to leave because I have restrictions with my diet, and I couldn't manage to eat that prasad, so I just went there just to offer my respects and to honor a little prasad, and then I was leaving, and he was very concerned. Like, even though everyone was sitting around waiting for him, I mean, but he gave his attention to me, that, why are you leaving? I'm so sorry. Why you can't have this prasad? And he was just so concerned about me. I felt like, I felt very touched, actually, by that. And I always remember it.
Thank you, Mataji. There's one last question regarding your service. How you handle matchmaking? Like, if there is some issues in future between husband and wife relationships, don't you have the fear of getting blamed?
That's a good question. I think that many people, they may not like to get involved in matchmaking for this reason, because it is a risk. It is a risky service, but someone has to do it. So somehow or other, I was asked to do it, and I agreed. And I took it up. And so far, I haven't been sued or taken to court, luckily. Now we have a team of matchmakers. I'm not so much involved in the matchmaking myself, because I'm coordinating the team and developing the project. And we have set up our terms and conditions so that we don't have a liability. I think the important thing is that what we do is we make introductions, we make suggestions, but then the decision is with the couple. The decision is up to the boy and the girl, whether they have to take responsibility for that decision. Because we may recommend, we may suggest, but we don't push them to say, you have to marry this person. That's not a good idea. So they must take the decision themselves. And we simply try to help to find someone, but then they have to decide for themselves if they want to proceed to marriage.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you very much. These were all questions by different devotees. So we are very thankful and express our heartfelt gratitude for accepting to bless us and enlightening us. You shared about various interactions with Bhakti Charu Swami Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada. You told that how you was in search of spirituality, came to India and found Srila Prabhupada, got initiated by Srila Prabhupada. Though you had very little association, direct association with Srila Prabhupada, but you are offering so many wonderful services to ISKCON till now. You told how when we have to spiritualize our relationship, and if we have the spiritual relations, then we will have unlimited access, even even without his physical presence. And he told how we can develop it gradually by practice. And you told about uh, Bhakti Charu Swami Guru Maharaj coming to your house and accepting prasadam, especially pizza, and how your husband wanted to take initiation from Guru Maharaj, but he later took from His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. And like many of God brothers, after the departure of the spiritual masters, both of you, your spiritual master departure, Srila Bhakti Charu Swami Guru Maharaj was one of the main shelter. And you told you told the various qualities of Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj, that how he was simple, he was sweet, he was very sensitive in his dealing. Like you told this Prasadam pastime at UK temple. How he was, you told one very nice point, that the way he left the body is a testimony of his year-long services to Srila Prabhupada. He was able to understand the mode of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada is Pashyatya Desharane. So he also took the preaching in West as one of the most important, though India is there. And you told how he was a peacemaker between Krishna West and other devotees. And very nice point, you told that we have to support each other's project to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. This is what Srila Prabhupada wanted, and Bhakti Charu Swami has did it. And last, he told that how we can have spiritual access. We should pray, and we should, while offering obeisances, when we are reciting the mantra, it should not be mechanical, but we should put our heart, and with devotion we should chant. And we have a very special relationship with our spiritual master, so surely he will reciprocate our prayers. So thank you very much, Mataji, and we beg your blessings to empower us so that we can follow these teachings and become loyal servant of Srila Prabhupada and continue to serve in ISKCON whole life. We look forward for your association at Ujjain whenever this pandemic situation is over. Thank you very much. So
Thank
we
you.
express our gratitude to Mataji for such a nice session by chanting one time Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Har Krish Jagannathesvari Mataji ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna. Thank you,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna. Thank you.